The studio was alive with its usual energy, camera operators adjusting their rigs, makeup artists darting away just before the red light blinked on, audience members whispering and craning their necks for a better look at the day's guest. The music faded, applause roared, and the view was live once again. The host introductions rolled smoothly, smiles all around, and then the camera panned to Michael Douglas. The veteran actor sat poised at the table, his silver hair neatly combed, his expression calm but alert. His years in Hollywood had trained him to stay composed under any spotlight, but he could sense the tension that always simmered on this show, the blend of curiosity and confrontation that made The View both infamous and unmissable. He'd come to promote his latest project, a biographical drama about aging and legacy in a changing world. What he hadn't planned for was the gauntlet he was about to walk into. Joy Behar leaned forward, her red glasses flashing under the lights. "Michael," she said with her trademark mix of charm and bite, "you've been very vocal lately about how Hollywood has lost its touch. You said it's more about noise than nuance, that's the quote, right? I'm curious, what exactly do you mean by that? Are you saying modern films just aren't good anymore?" Her tone was light, but everyone knew it was a trap disguised as curiosity. Michael smiled politely, tilting his head a little. "Not at all, Joy," he began, his voice measured. "There's still good work being done out there. But the priorities have shifted. It used to be about stories that moved people, now it's about algorithms and attention spans. I'm not saying we can't evolve, but somewhere along the line, we traded depth for spectacle." The audience murmured in agreement, a few claps echoing faintly. But Joy wasn't letting it land there. "Come on, Michael," she said with a chuckle. "That sounds a little nostalgic, doesn't it? Every generation says the next one ruined art. Maybe you just miss the days when you were the center of it." There it was, the jab beneath the question. Michael's smile didn't falter, but his eyes sharpened slightly. "I don't think it's about being the center of anything. It's about craftsmanship. Filmmaking's a collaborative art. These days, half the decisions are made by social media teams before the camera even rolls." Joy shrugged. "Well, maybe the audience just wants what it wants. Isn't that democracy? You can't blame people for liking what sells." Michael leaned forward a bit, resting his hands on the table. "I'm not blaming the audience. I'm saying we've stopped challenging them. We used to make films that asked people to think. Now we just feed them content that keeps them scrolling." There was a beat of silence, the kind that ripples through a live broadcast when something true cuts too close. Whoopi glanced at the producer off stage, giving a subtle look. "Keep it cool, don't cut yet." Joy smirked, sensing an opening. "So what are you saying? That modern filmmakers are lazy? That audiences today are stupid?" Michael blinked, clearly taken aback. "That's not what I said at all. But it kind of sounds like it," Joy pressed. "You talk about dumbing down cinema, but maybe it's just evolving. Maybe you don't like it because it's not your era anymore." The crowd gasped softly. Whoopi's eyebrows lifted slightly as she shifted in her chair, muttering, "Oh boy, here we go," under her breath. Michael exhaled through his nose, trying to keep the irritation from breaking through. "Joy, with all due respect, I've worked with young filmmakers who are brilliant, passionate, and original. My criticism isn't about age, it's about attitude. There's a difference between being modern and being shallow. Or maybe," Joy said, cutting in again, "you just can't accept that storytelling isn't the same as it was in 1979. That was it." Something in his expression changed, gone was the polite, promotional tone. Now his voice carried a measured edge. "You know, Joy, it's interesting. You accuse me of nostalgia, but what you're doing right now is dismissing everything that came before as irrelevant. That's not progress, that's arrogance." A few people in the audience clapped, cautiously at first, then more loudly as others joined in. Joy looked irritated, her smile tightening. "Oh, come on, Michael. You've had an incredible career. No one's taking that away from you. I'm just saying you sound bitter when you act like everything was better, back then." "Bitter?" He laughed softly, shaking his head. "No, not bitter. Just honest. There's a difference between criticizing something because you hate it and criticizing it because you care about it. I love this business, but I also know when it's losing its soul." The studio grew quiet again. His words hung heavy in the air. Even the producers watching from the control room leaned closer to the monitors. Joy tried to pivot, her voice rising slightly. "Well, if Hollywood's so soulless, why do you keep making movies? You seem to be doing just fine in this broken system." Michael looked directly at her, eyes steady. Because you don't fix a house by walking away from it. You fix it by calling out the cracks. The audience erupted into applause this time, louder, more genuine. Joy looked momentarily stunned, clearly thrown off her rhythm. Whoopi leaned back with a half smile, murmuring, "Well, I'll be damned." But Joy wasn't done. "You know, you talk about respect and artistry, but you came here to promote a movie. Isn't that the same system you're criticizing?" Michael's jaw tightened. "Joy, you keep twisting my words into sound bites. You don't listen, you just wait for your turn to speak." "Oh, don't get dramatic, Michael," she said, laughing. "This isn't Wall Street." He looked straight at her, his voice quiet but piercing. "No, you're right, it's the view, and apparently, only one view counts." The audience gasped audibly. A few clapped, unsure if they should. Joy's face hardened into a tight smile. Whoopi shot a quick glance at the control booth. The producer gestured wildly, cut to break, cut to break. But Michael wasn't finished. "You invite people here to talk, Joy, but you don't actually want a conversation. You want a sparring match." The air felt electric now, the tension crackling through every lens, every microphone. Joy opened her mouth to reply, but Michael was already pushing back his chair. "You know what, I've been doing interviews since before this show even existed, and I've never seen one where the goal was to humiliate the guest." Backstage, the air was tense enough to cut through. The echo of the confrontation still rippled through the studio like aftershocks. Crew members whispered in small huddles, pretending to go about their business, but everyone's eyes darted toward the hallway where Michael Douglas had stormed off. The cameras were off now, but the fallout was just beginning. Michael stood near the exit, still adjusting his jacket, his breathing steady but heavy. Decades of experience in the spotlight had trained him to remain composed under pressure, yet something about that exchange had truly gotten under his skin. He wasn't new to tough interviews, he'd sparred with hard-hitting journalists before, but this was different. This wasn't about discussion or challenge. It had been personal. A stage assistant, no older than 25, hesitated before stepping forward. "Mr. Douglas, can I get you a bottle of water?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Sure, thanks, kid." She hurried off, clearly trying to do anything to ease the awkwardness hanging in the air. A moment later, Whoopi Goldberg appeared through the curtain, her calm, grounded presence filling the space. "Well, you sure gave them something to talk about," she said, half joking but with a hint of sympathy. Michael shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "I wasn't trying to make a scene, Whoopi. I just can't stand being talked down to." "I know," Whoopi replied softly, stepping closer. Joy pushes buttons. Sometimes she forgets there's a difference between debate and disrespect. He sighed. "I came here to talk about my movie, about legacy, storytelling, something meaningful." Instead, she turns it into a soundbite war. Whoopi nodded. "That's TV these days. It's not about conversation, it's about moments. Clips. Reactions." Michael gave a short laugh. "Yeah, and now I'm the clip." Meanwhile, inside the studio, Joy Behar sat back in her chair, her face unreadable. The stage manager was barking out orders for the next segment, but Joy wasn't really listening. The rest of the panel, Whoopi's empty seat still warm, Sunny Hostin glancing awkwardly at the teleprompter, Sarah Haynes fidgeting with her cue cards, sat in uneasy silence. Joy finally muttered, "He overreacted." Sarah shot her a cautious look. "Maybe, but it looked rough from where I was sitting." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, please, I was asking questions. If he can't take a little pushback, maybe he shouldn't do live television." "Joy," Sunny said carefully, "it wasn't really pushback. You kind of kept interrupting him." Joy frowned. "That's my job." Sunny sighed. "No, it's not. Your job's to listen too." Joy didn't respond. She just looked toward the crowd of producers huddled behind the glass booth, watching as they gestured frantically to move on to the next topic. She picked up her coffee, pretending the sting of what had just happened wasn't digging under her skin. Out in the hallway, Michael's publicist, Dana, hurried toward him, her phone in hand, eyes wide with alarm. "Michael, it's already trending," she said breathlessly. "There are clips all over social media. Hashtag Michael Douglas, hashtag The View Meltdown, it's everywhere." Michael exhaled through his nose, half amused, half frustrated. "Of course it is. You came off strong," she said quickly. "People are calling it the classiest shutdown in talk show history. But the network's in panic mode. They want to know if you'll make a statement." He leaned against the wall, his tone calm but resolute. No, I said what I meant. I'm not going to spin it for their comfort. Dana frowned. She's already calling you, thin-skinned, on the press floor. Michael smirked. Let her. The people watching know what they saw. Just then, Whoopi stepped back through the curtain, now joined by one of the senior producers, a tall woman with a clipboard and a strained smile. Mr. Douglas, the producer began diplomatically, we want to apologize if things got heated. You know how live television can be. Yeah, he said dryly, I do. That's why I usually avoid it. She laughed awkwardly. We'd love to smooth this over. Maybe have you back another time. Or perhaps a pre-recorded interview. Michael raised an eyebrow. Pre-recorded, huh, so you can edit out anything that makes your hosts look bad. The producer's smile faltered. That's not what I meant. I know, he said gently, though the edge in his voice lingered. But let's not pretend this was just spirited conversation. She nodded, defeated,